Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils find a way to a series win in Chicago, and the pitching was the real key for how they got it done.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for a little over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons. And this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, hitting that subscribe button on the YouTube. That gets you notifications when new episodes are posted so you don't miss a thing. It's free. It's easy. It helps you out. It helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. So appreciate everyone who's done that, everyone who's going to do that. And today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Will turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On and you can get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. So the Phillies found a way to a series win in Chicago, and it was it's one of those all-encompassing series that had it all, right? It had the Phillies offense asleep at the wheel. It had the double-digit run explosion game. It had good pitching. It had bad pitching. It had the pitcher's duel. It had the shutout. There was all kinds of stuff that happened in this series to break down over the weekend. And really what that does, before we get into the actual logistics of how it got done, the idea that kind of everything happened in this series is the problem with Philadelphia Phillies baseball right now. Now, it's a great thing that they won. The Cubs were playing good baseball. They are a solid team. This is a nice bounce-back series win after getting swept out of New York at the hands of the Mets. So I love to see that the Phillies found a way to win 2 out of 3 in Chicago. I thought they were going to win 1 out of 3. I did not think they would win Nola's start. They had to go to extras last night to do so and scrape some runs across. We're going to talk about the guy who had a big RBI hit, Trea Turner, and why I think he's kind of the main turning point of this lineup a little bit later on in the episode. And we're also going to have some off-day updates as the Phillies do not play tonight. They have their second off day in 4 days after just playing 16 days straight. MLB scheduling, ladies and gentlemen. But let's jump into the series against the Chicago Cubs, and let's start with Game 1. Because Game 1, the Philadelphia Phillies were indeed shut out 4-0. They did very, very little at the plate. I mean, they just couldn't create any opportunities at all. Taijuan Walker got pulled early. The Phillies struck out 12 times. They only walked 4. They only had 5 hits. They couldn't figure anything out of the dish. And you're like, oh, here we go again. They're shut out again. They can't create opportunities. Now, Wrigley series are inherently weird because of the wind. And I'm not saying, well, the Phillies were shut out because of the wind. And the Cubs have to play in the wind as well. But when that wind is blowing in, it really, really changes the complex, in or out, the complex of your offense, right? It's one of and they were talking about it on the Sunday night baseball broadcast on ESPN last night. They were talking about how Wrigley may play the most part in any games by a stadium in Major League Baseball. It's like basically that and Colorado because the wind is just such a darn factor. So there are some moments every time you go and play the Cubs where you got to be like, okay, how much am I taking that into account for the overall season in a normal stadium? But wind aside, we're going to put that aside, even though it was a factor in these 3 games. Getting shut out to lead off against the Cubs made everybody very upset. It was their 5th straight loss. People started losing their minds. Well, people already had lost their minds after the series to the Mets, and you needed a bounce back, which is why it was awesome that for the second Saturday in a row, the Phillies scored double-digit runs. Last Saturday, remember, it was 11 against the Miami Marlins, and then Jordan Romano came in and made that a 1-run game. But the Phillies offense still scored 11. And this Saturday, it was 10. The Phillies went out and scored 10 runs on 12 hits. They did have 1 home run. Max Kepler somehow snuck one out. Told you he was a power hitter. They did strike out 9 times. So they did go down a little bit by the strikeout in that game. But everyone was pretty much good in that one. Everybody in the starting lineup had a hit besides Johan Rojas, who did have a run scored after walking. So it was just a joint performance. Max Kepler 3 for 5 was probably the biggest mark of that one, but you got the offense waking up. The problem is once the offense woke up against the Marlins, well, it fell right back asleep when you went to New York against the Mets. So you need consistent, sustained play. That's why this is an issue, the way that this series unfolded for the Philadelphia Phillies. It's not because they didn't hit, because they hit in game 2. It's not because they didn't pitch, because, man, did Jesus Luzardo have a great start in game 2 and Aaron Nola a great start in game 3. It's not, it's the bullpen, because I'll tell you what, Jordan Romano, pretty big outing yesterday in extra innings to make sure that the Cubs don't find a way to walk that one off. I know he had a 2-run lead, but still getting out of it without surrendering the zombie runner on second. Okay, you got an inning or 2 from the bullpen in this series that you should feel better about. I'm not saying things are fixed. They still terrify me, but credit where credit's due. If they get the job done, they get the job done, even though the numbers still look really, really bad. But my point in all of this is it's not like they go out every day, and if they have 10-plus hits, they win. And if they have 9 or less hits, they lose, right? There's so much more to it that they're trying to figure out in consistency of their game. They just need to play a cleaner game more consistently and not have these rotating problems. And that has not exactly been disproven by this past series in Chicago. I know they're a good team. I know they can win. I know they can beat the Cubs in a series, right? That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the reason why we go through these dips, these struggles, these 5-game losing streaks is because every day it seems to be a rotating cast of problems that cost this team or that make it harder for this team to win ball games. Yesterday was kind of a weird one. As I record this on Monday, the Sunday matinee finish was not a matinee finish. It was a Sunday night baseball game, which means a little bit colder in Chicago. And Aaron Nola took the mound, and he was excellent. And you kind of had the feeling that eventually Aaron Nola was going to have one of those Aaron Nola type starts that come out of nowhere. He went 7 innings, 3 hits, struck out 6. So he doesn't really have the strikeout stuff working still, but only allowed 1 earned and walked 1. He was great. And so was Tyone for the Chicago Cubs. So it was just a pitcher's duel. The wild thing with yesterday's game is even in an extra frame in the 10th inning, the Phillies, who scored 3 runs, 2 of those coming in extras, only struck out 3 times in the game. They walked 5. I mean, they did have 6 hits. It was just like they weren't striking out. They weren't walking. They were just facing a pitcher that was pounding the zone with good movement, and they were just hitting the ball at guys. And maybe part of that is the wind. Maybe part of that is unlucky. I don't know. But that's a very, very weird situation. I mean, the Cubs, you could say the same. They had 3 hits over the course of – now, 3 hits is a little bit more of like our offense just stunk. They struck out 8 times. They only walked once as well. It was just a weird pitcher's duel Sunday night baseball game where nobody can get anything going, even though the guys on the mound didn't have like crazy strikeout stuff. You know what it was? It was a pitcher's duel right out of the early 2000s or late 1990s, where it's not, hey, this guy's going to go out there and strike out 12 or 13 or 14, throwing 101 miles an hour. It's, hey, this guy's going to go out, command his pitches, handle the strike zone, pitch to contact. His defense is going to make plays. We're going to get out of here in like 2.5 hours, even with the extra innings, because it's going to be a 3-1 final in favor of your Philadelphia Phillies. Credit to Aaron Nola, though, for finally having that bounce back start. Did not get run support, but he was able to not find the loss. Of course, he didn't get the victory because the Phillies didn't score those go-ahead runs until the extra innings. But it was good to see from Aaron Nola. It was good to see from Jesus Luzardo, right? Like, we're going to talk when we talk about the off-day updates about the injuries with this team and just like a current vibe of where those guys are at and who's back, who's coming back, who the Phillies need, and just general like off day of like where is this team right now, news points you need to know. The pitching staff feels like it's getting healthier, feels like it's getting better. The rotation is elite. We know that already. But I'm talking about the bullpen as well. Seems to be settling a little bit. We'll see if I end up eating those words when the Phillies take on the Nationals on Tuesday. But you should overall be happy with the Phillies series win in Chicago. Just the worry for me is, again, it was another series where there were different problems in every game, different strengths in every game. And that's what's been the Philadelphia Phillies issue, is they just have not played a consistent brand of baseball over the course of the games that they have gone through. And that leads to it being harder for you to sustain success, go on like the 6-game win streaks that we've seen the Mets do twice this year. You got to be able to have your strengths, play to them consistently, and that's how you're going to win more than you lose. And the Phillies are going to win more than they lose. We just saw it. So good work by winning the series in Chicago. Phillies fans should be excited again. The season is not over. Who knew? Now, they need to go on more of a run, and they get that opportunity against the Nationals coming up tomorrow. We'll talk on tomorrow's episode previewing that series, maybe even a little crossover with our friends over on Locked On Nationals. So I'll keep you updated on that. But a successful trip to Chicago when the team could have really used it. And another place where the team, you think back to like the first post All-Star break series, is that in 22 or 23, where they go to Chicago and get swept. And you're like, oh no, they're not going to make the playoffs. Would have had to have been 22 then. That team ended up going to the World Series. But a place that the Phillies have had trouble playing, it seemed. The graphic they put up on Sunday Night Baseball was like they've handled the Cubs consistently well over the past couple of years. So I don't know what to believe. Weird series, windy series, a 1 series for the Philadelphia Phillies. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the guy who helped them win it last night and why Trea Turner is, to me, the turning point of this offense. And so far, well, he hasn't really been that in his time with the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll discuss as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because the NBA playoffs are almost here. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy. Whether it's picking my favorite team, now neither of my favorite teams are in the playoffs right now, but diving into player props is another great thing. A lot of my favorite players are out there, and I get to pick maybe the over on Luka points or the under on Jalen Brunson points because he's been like banged up throughout the series and happened again to him yesterday in a game. There's a lot of ways you can bet on the NBA playoffs, from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has a billion ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. A lot of opportunities to win on the NBA playoffs. Also, of course, hockey going on, baseball, golf, all kinds of stuff, soccer. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com. So the Trea Turner thing it's in an interesting spot right now, okay? So why is Trea, first and foremost, the main turning point for this Phillies team? Well, because he's kind of the guy who does both, right? We know that Bryce Harper is the superstar of the team, but there are times where Bryce Harper will simply be taken away just because guys do not want to pitch to him, right? Like he's the one guy who would probably be most likely to be pitched around by any pitcher in any given game. Schwarber's probably too, but Harper stands alone at the top saying, if there's anybody we're not going to let beat us, it's that guy. And that's how they handle it. So while he is a mix of average and power, he's also a mix of we don't want to pitch to Bryce Harper, which takes him out of the equation sometimes, which means you need to have somebody else step up. Now, Bryson Stott has been doing an awesome job in the leadoff role for this team. He really has. I was totally wrong on that to this point, that I would be nervous with him in the leadoff slot because I don't think he's consistent enough. He's been awesome. But he's an average guy. Not average as in middle of the road. I'm talking average as in he hits for average. And he's not really a pop guy, and we saw him try and do a little bit of that last year. Kind of messed with his swing. Contact is key, right? We know he's got pop. Took Edwin Diaz deep just this past week, but he's not a guy that's going to be hunting home runs, right? Average guy. Kyle Schwarber, homers guy. We know this. He can hit for a little bit average. He's trying to mash baseballs. Nick Castellanos is probably not consistent enough to be either. He's like a doubles gap power guy, but I don't really see him as an average guy just because the strikeout numbers are still a little high, and they were so high for the past couple of years. Like I can't count him as that. Kepler, a power guy. JT, neither power nor average. He's got to figure it out at the plate a little bit, but he bats a little further down. Bohm is an average guy. Rojas obviously is an average guy. So that's pretty much who you're looking at in the Philadelphia Phillies lineup. But there's one dude that you look at and say, okay, well, one dude besides Bryce Harper, because Harper's this guy. But when you look at Trea Turner, you say, okay, he can hit 20-plus home runs. He should bat over 300. He should steal X number of bases, whether that's 30 or 40 or 50, whatever you want to put it on. He is a really, really talented shortstop, middle infielder, hitter, runner, everything. You saw it. His sprint speed was unbelievable in that ground ball to third base that he beat out to give the Phillies an insurance run in the 10th inning of the final game against the Cubs. The problem with Trea Turner is he just hasn't been finding that jack of all trades approach to his game, right? Every once in a while, he'll have a game where he'll have multiple hits, and it'll be like, okay, cool. It's starting to come out of it maybe. But he's only hit one home run this year. It was a huge home run late in the game against the Braves that ended up giving the Phillies the win. But he's only had one home run this year. We've seen more power from him before that. Average is not quite where you want it to be. You thought he was going to be like a 300 guy. He's not. Defense made a big error in the game on Saturday with Jesus Luzardo starting. Didn't end up killing them, but it did cost Jesus Luzardo the third out of an inning. It did lead to 4 more batters being faced. It did lead to more pitches on the arm. It did lead to the surrendering of a no-hit bid. So it wasn't a good play by any stretch of the imagination, but defense, whatever. His defense hasn't killed you this year. It's still shaky, but it hasn't killed where the Phillies are at. There are much bigger problems with this team than Trea Turner's defense. I'll tell you that right now. But he hasn't been like a great defender. So not a true power hitter, not where you want him average-wise, not a great defender, not really stealing bases to the level you want. You know what Trea Turner feels like? He feels like that drink that you got at the bar that sits there for a little bit. It sits there, maybe you get in a conversation with somebody, and you go back, and it's just watered down. Like, you can still taste the tequila. You can still taste the soda water. But the ice cubes have melted a little bit, and it's just like it tastes like watery tequila or watery lime or whatever. Trea Turner feels like the watered-down version of himself right now for the Phillies. It doesn't mean he's bad. It doesn't mean you can't tell that he's still Trea Turner, and he's going to make plays that help you win ball games some days. But you were bringing this guy in to be like the partner to Bryce Harper. Let's make no mistake. I love JT Realmuto. I love Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, and these guys that you brought in. They're on $100 million deals. Trea Turner's on a $300 million deal. He was supposed to be the guy alongside Bryce Harper that brings this team to where they need to be. Could you imagine, right? Just think about this for a second, because Trea gets covered up sometimes by some other guys on the team. Could you imagine if Trea Turner was like, if Bryce Harper's production was Trea Turner's production? You'd be like, why in the world do we give this guy that contract? That's crazy. Like, we're lucky that you have Bryce Harper playing as well as he always does, or else there would be nobody to cover up for the fact that the Trea Turner contract it's not looking good right now. And he's the main turning point in this lineup because he can do both. He's just a very versatile guy at the plate. He can create opportunities on the base pass. Like, he can do everything this team needs to steady things out. And he bats in a very important part of the lineup in the top 4, whether it's 2 or 3 on any given day or lead off or whatever. Stott's been really good. Harper and Schwarber are going to be fine. Turner is kind of that guy where it's just like, okay, well, until he figures it out, there's always going to feel like there's something missing from the ceiling of this team. I'm not worried about it because last year he put up some solid numbers when everything was all said and done. I don't think people realize, and we talked about it this offseason a couple of times, how strong of a year Trea Turner put together last year. But a strong year is not what you brought him in here for. You brought him in here to be elite, high level play at shortstop and at the plate. More at the plate than at shortstop. But still, he has not given you that. He hasn't delivered on the ceiling of where he could be. Now, the upside, if you want to think positively, is, okay, Trea Turner hasn't delivered on his ceiling. Well, in 23, he stunk, and you went to the NLCS. In 24, he was better, and you went to the NLDS and won 95 games and won the division. What if you get 3 months of a season of like elite level Trea Turner and they lead into the postseason? Like, what if you do get that guy? Well, it raises the ceiling of the team, but you should not be playing a $300 million what if game. Bryce Harper is never a what if, right? Bryce Harper is a get him the bat, get him to the plate. He is going to make something happen more often than not because he is worth every single darn penny. Trea Turner is I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if we trust him in this spot. I don't know if he's going to make that play in the field. And that's something that is, you can stomach that with a strong lineup with other good players, but we probably shouldn't be based on how much he's getting paid. And he's just in such an important spot on this team defensively. Shortstop, the most important defensive position in the infield. Lineup-wise, I mean, most important part of the lineup, batting up there at like 2 or 3 or 4, wherever he is on any given day, like huge part of getting the lineup going. It's a big, big spot for like continuity from the leadoff hitter, giving you a good approach and maybe getting on to, hey, set the table fully for the big boys. And he hasn't gotten it done. So maybe the number one guy the Phillies need to get going is Trea Turner. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And if he can get hot, like real hot, like stretch of hitting 320, 330, 340 hot, then we may be cooking with gas with the Philadelphia Phillies lineup. But until you do, it's always going to feel like they're missing something out of their potential. Now, they're missing something today, and that's a baseball game because they have an off day. They have the opportunity to chill out as they travel back and get ready to take on the Washington Nationals. So we will take just a look at most recent Phillies news on injuries and stuff like that. We will do another quick standings peek in, even though I know we already did one on Thursday, and just general housekeeping for the Philadelphia Phillies as they work their way back to take on the Nationals after today's off day as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the absolute best. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. I mean, whether you want to go to a baseball game, football game, basketball, hockey, comedy, concerts, theater, all of that great stuff that you need a ticket for, Game Time will help you get there and get there for the best deal available. So this year, I've been doing it many times with the Phillies already. I've gone to a handful of games, and it's because I'm grabbing last-minute tickets on Game Time. And they've got unbeatable prices when you get close to the last pitch. I'll get some for my buddies. If I'm going in with my credential, I'll meet them at their seats. I can find seats that are probably like by themselves a little bit more so that I can go over with my credential and have a little bit more room. Now, obviously, that's not the average experience, but the point is you can find seats anywhere for great prices, great views, and you can find what's needed for your best experience with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with our friends over at Game Time. A little off-day housekeeping for the Philadelphia Phillies as we look forward to their series with the Washington Nationals, which will start tomorrow. It will start on Tuesday, April 29th. Yeah, I guess today's the 28th. Not great with the dates, but the Phillies are back at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow, so they'll get an off day here in Philly. They'll get to see their family and maybe go out to a nice dinner. That's good. Having off days at home are nice. Having off days on the road in cool cities are cool, but like when you have kids and stuff like that, I'm sure it's good for the Phils to get back and good to do that after a series win. It's also going to be good to play the Nationals at home, even though the Nationals are hot right now. We'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode. But some injury updates. The Phillies with Christopher Sanchez first had some forearm tightness. He was pulled out of a game in New York against the Mets. He wanted to throw the next day. He says he's good. They're going to skip a start for him, but they're not going to use anybody new or call anybody up. They're just going to, because of the off days, throw Wheeler a day early. So Sanchez is fine. He's good. They're just being cautious with him. He'll be back for like a start in the next week or so. So he's good to go. Taijuan Walker, who was pulled from that series against the Miami Marlins, well, he threw like 80-some pitches in 3 innings against the Chicago Cubs in Game 1, but he looked healthy. He didn't look great, but he looked healthy. So he's okay as well. He did have a little bit of the shoulder tightness. Ranger Suarez seems like he's just about ready any day. I'd imagine that the Phils will get through one more rotation time in the bullpen, in the rotation. And at the start of May, you're going to see Ranger Suarez. So you get through the final couple games of April. And then when you take on the Colorado Rockies in Colorado on Wednesday, I'd expect Ranger Suarez to be on that trip because it's a West Coast swing against the not the Colorado Rockies. Why does the schedule always go down like that? The Diamondbacks come to Philadelphia. Stupid ESPN app, all due respect. Anyway, I expect him to be around for the Diamondback series. I was just looking at the wrong series. But the one after the Nationals, this next weekend, Navy would be a spot that you look at targeting for Ranger Suarez. Everything I've heard from Andrew Painter down in the minors sounds like he's good as he starts to throw a little bit more consistently. Brandon Marsh is working his way back. Some people are saying, no, I hope he doesn't get healthier. I get it. The more healthy players, the better. But he is playing at AAA. He is starting to work his way back. Seems like he's 100%. They're just trying to figure out, well, how long do we keep him down there for? Do we need to jumpstart him hitting consistently before we bring him back up? So that one's a little bit tricky, right? You don't want to just bring up Marsh when he's healthy. You want to use this as an opportunity to get him at bats against lesser pitching so that he can build confidence, ideally, and then you bring him back up. I mean, Rojas has been covering center field. Weston Wilson being back is key to give you just another option out there to hold things down for the time being. So, no rush on Brandon Marsh, but they could probably play him tomorrow if they needed to. As far as the bullpen's concerned, no worries with anybody in the bullpen. Everybody in the pen's healthy. Some of them have just not been good, but they are healthy. So that is good to see from the Philadelphia Phillies. So they're starting to get to a point where injuries are not as much of a concern as they were this week when you had Sanchez and Walker go out of starts within 3 days of each other with tightness and everything. That was not good. Phillies dodged a couple more bullets, feeling like we're in good place as far as health is concerned for the team. I do also want to do a quick check-in on the standings, even though we did check in on the standings over or just before the weekend with the off day on Thursday. I want to make sure that we keep up with things as the Phillies won the series. So when you win, of course, it's much easier to check in on your record. And the Phils, they were the 14th best record in baseball. They have now moved up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th best record in the majors. They are 4 games back of the New York Mets, who do have the best record in baseball. As far as in the National League, the Phillies are 7th, which would be the final wild card spot. So, okay, cool. Love that. Wait, final wild card spot? No, they'd be – I'm an idiot. 1 game out? I don't know. The stupid extra wild card. We're not worried about the wild card. Phillies are winning the division. We're not even to the point where we're looking at wild card yet. They're 4 games back in the Mets. They're only 3 back of the Dodgers, just to give you a heads up. The Cubs are playing good baseball. They're a game and a half back on the Cubs. The Phillies are right there. And then when you look at the NL East, obviously you're looking at the Mets up top, but you have 2 games on the Nationals, who you're going to see at home. It'll be good to build that little buffer. You have 2.5 games on the Marlins, who are starting to fall back to the back of the division. 2.5 games on the Braves, who are continuing to fight their way back from a very slow start to the year. But, man, they're going to have cold stretches again eventually. They're not just going to follow up that cold stretch to start the year with the greatest stretch of baseball ever. Funny enough, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are 15-13, I just realized this. Do you know what their run differential is on the year? So, all of their games combined, what they won by, what they lost by, you add all those numbers up. The Phillies' run differential is at an even 0. Let me see, because they may be the only team in baseball that has a run differential at exactly 0. Yes, they are. So, of all 30 teams at the major league level, the Phillies have given up the same amount of runs as they've scored. They are 2 games above 500. If that just doesn't show you, like the whole theme of the episode, we're trying to figure out how they just play more consistent baseball to the level that they can. That's what it is. They have talent, but they just haven't been consistent enough. And we will see if they can build that momentum against the Washington Nationals. If the starting pitching can start to carry them, just like Luzardo and Nola gave you to save the bullpen a little bit, well, then you're cooking with something. But we will see if they can get that done. We will preview the series against the Washington Nationals tomorrow on our next episode. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.